Thanks, Yoza. As some of you have met me before, but so for those that haven't, my name is Geoff Blount. I run the investment team for Invequity. That's a rather grand term for a relatively small business and small team. We've got, everyone in Invequity does a bit of everything, but we've got 4 people in our investment team, and the fruits of what we do is what I'm going to take you through today. There will be opportunities for questions at the end, but if you've got something that's really burning, you are welcome to put your hand up. No one's going to shoot you down. We call them qualifying investments or portfolio companies, and this is just someone said this looks like the tombstone. It's like all the tombstones of the different companies, and I thought that's a rather badly chosen word for some of the investee companies. And I'm going to touch on most of these today, just to give you a little bit of an update where they are, their business performance, also some of the challenges they faced and some of the opportunities. But what I'd also like to do is bring an overarching message, and I think that'll be continued by Wanda from Mandini in particular, around the fact that it is possible to invest commercially and generate attractive commercial returns while still having a positive impact. I think perhaps maybe in the Q&A there might even be a bit of discussion yet, like, is ESG dead? Considering the Trump administration's view around that, and also what's happening globally, and perhaps we'll share some of our views there. But I don't think it's dead, but I think it's evolving, and we prefer to use the term impact, and to make sure that the businesses we're investing are having a positive impact. So, and I'm going to try and not say tombstone because it's like now stuck in my mind. But if you look through across some of the portfolio companies here, we do 2 things when we construct the portfolios or make our investments. We do try and look across sectors to invest in different sectors so that you have diversification across different sectors. I'd also like to note that, as yours explained, we have over 50 private equity funds. And so each fund actually has its own unique return series because it depended on when your drawdowns came into those funds, the cash flows came in. It depended on what opportunities were available to invest in at that point in time. And it also then depends on how long the fund has been in existence. So, when you also spoke about the sort of 18% in aggregate return, that's when we look at the entire portfolio across all of the holdings of the private equity funds, and we put that together. But every client actually has quite a specific and unique or different return stream. The other thing I'd also like to note, apart from the fact that we've got sector diversification here, we also have life cycle or life stage diversification. So we've got some businesses that are mature, we've got some businesses that are in a growth phase, we've got some businesses that we'd call early stage or startup. And again, that just gives us the ability to actually put into the portfolios or make available into the portfolios businesses that have different growth set or growth opportunities. So I'm going to start off with Prime Stars. Most of you, I'm also going to try and resist saying, as I've told you before, because many of you have seen the presentations before, either or similar, either at the advisory board meetings that we have when we do the one-on-one report backs, or alternatively in previous roadshows. So I'm going to generally assume that you kind of know what the businesses do, but I'm going to still give you a little bit of an update on that. So Prime Stars is one of our stars, if I could call it, and it's a great example of where you can have positive impact as well as making an attractive return. So Prime Stars, and I'm about to say it, as you will have heard before, but Prime Stars is involved in what they call the private tutor to the public student. And Prime Stars builds education content for kids from poor communities, whether they're rural or poor township communities. They bring the kids into cinemas on a Saturday, they give them a Coke, a box of popcorn, and they've created movies. But now these movies are both educational, but they're also life skills, they're training. But the point is that they actually are used to enhance the ability in the curriculum that the kids are studying at school. So over the last few years, Prime Stars, for example, in the Educate session, in terms of maths and science, has taken 450,000 kids through their program. On average, these kids get a 20% better mark in matric than the kids that haven't been through the program. So this is a material impact. The beautiful thing about Prime Stars is that the kids are the beneficiaries, but they go and sell to corporates that are wanting to spend CSI. They go and sell high ROI CSI options. So they go to AECI and say, guys, do you want to put, we will charge you, I'm making this up because I don't know the number, 8 million rand, and we'll put 8,000 people through a leadership program. But at the end of the day, the corporate gets a very tangible, measurable outcome. And so this is, everyone wins, the students, the corporate sponsor, as well as the business. From our perspective, since we invested in Prime Stars in February 2022, it's given us a total return of 77%. So if you annualize that, divide that by 4, you can get a sense of the annual returns there. It's also quite a nice business because it also generates nice cash flows. And we like cash flow. As you'll see, some of our businesses, which are early stage, don't generate cash flows. And so it's always nice to get that balance. Talking of one of the businesses that actually doesn't generate cash flow yet is Right. You'll be familiar again with Right. Right is rolling. Right, by the way, stands for, I want to say Rural Internet of Things, but Murray's going to correct me. Okay, Rural Internet of Things. And sometimes it's been criticized for its name. Through our clients' funds, we own 15% of the business. And really what they do is they build these mass mesh networks. Imagine a Wi-Fi network through a poorer community, through a squatter camp or a rural area, and it actually gives connectivity to residents there, typically between 99 Rand and they are revisiting pricing up to 149 Rand, some even a little bit more, but unthrottled, uncapped internet connectivity. And I suspect most people in this room would like to pay that price at home. So it's a great business. It is a heavy capital consumer while they're busy commercializing the business at the moment. Right in the last year has consumed its available capital both in OPEX and rolling out its network. Oh, by the way, we can provide the deck for those afterwards that want to have it, but feel free to take photos if you want. Just of interest, Right at the moment, in our investments in our portfolios, we own 15% of the business at a carrying cost of 8.7 million Rand. That values the business at about 56 million Rand. It is because of its capital consumption nature in the process of doing a significant capital raising, in fact, I put there circa 50 million, the right number is actually 48 million Rand, and we're waiting for the final term sheets for the potential investor. So that's quite exciting. Perhaps at the end, when it's the panel discussion, Murray can explain the business now. He represents our interests in Right. He sits on the board of Right to represent Invequity, and he can perhaps explain that there's a bit of a conundrum the business faces because the demand is actually more than what the capital raise is going to facilitate. So it's an interesting position to be in. It's a nice problem to have. But nevertheless, Right is one of our early stage investments, and for that reason, it does come with significant risk. If through these valuations and through the expected cash flows over years, while we carried at cost, but the DCF's discounted cash flows of this business will sit into many hundreds of millions of rands over time if the business model proves to be successful. One of our other investments, as you'll be aware, is B1SA. There I said it again, as you're aware. So B1SA, we did our first investment into B1SA 2 years ago. It was to allow the business to acquire into a company called Supplier Rate. But before I explain about what Supplier Rates, let me give you a little bit of background on B1SA. B1SA originated out of advising corporates on how to maximize their BE scorecard from a procurement spend basis. So that's the core of the business. They, in the last few years, have been investing in and have launched a business called B1 Link, which is a business-to-business platform that allows suppliers to save all of their compliance data, whether it's a BE certificate, your bank account details, directors, SIPC, and other matters that are required for business compliance, for supplier compliance. Now, to give you a sense, you might think, well, Freddie, does that make sense? But any of you in a large corporate will understand the complexity of managing a supply chain. Tiger Brands has over 5,000 suppliers, and has got 5 full-time people just doing supplier compliance. So there's a big demand for this type of service. But B1 Link is a bridge that will act between the suppliers and the buyers. The business that we helped fund in terms of B1 SA's acquisition of Supplier Rate. Now this is a business that does supplier risk checks. So if you're about to onboard a supplier and you want to have a little bit more of a risk assessment around the nature of the supplier, are they politically connected? What is the viability of the business? What are the other potential risk checks that you want in this business? Supplier Rate does that. So you can now start seeing an ecosystem here which is managing managing a supply chain. So last year, in fact, many of you may be aware, we went on a capital raise to fund another acquisition by B1 SA called Inoxico. Now, Inoxico is a credit bureau that does credit assessment of corporates. So if you're going to have, if you've got someone supplying you, and you're supplying a customer and they're going on to 30, 60 days, Inoxico would do the risk check of that business. And you can see there's a very nice continuum now to understand the nature of, from start to finish, in terms of the supply chain risk management, from risk checks right through to your client's credit vetting. Unfortunately, that transaction, in terms of the sellers, there were some CPs that were not met, and our capital was returned to us. So for the investors that were aware of that transaction, that capital, we're still compliant, there's no issues there, but we're looking to redeploy that. And perhaps at the end, I might even have a chance to talk a bit about what are some of the opportunities. But in more recent times,